Um, whoa. It's like actually nighttime. Sign for the floating lanterns by the road in the rural district. Think there's something there. Floating lanterns. Oh, floating lanterns. A night scene spreads out around me. People are dressed in yukata, yukata, heading in the direction of the beach. Okay. It's time for the floating lanterns already. Yeah, it's going to be beautiful again this year. This is something I would love to see, is the floating lanterns. There's a sign here for the floating lanterns. It explains that the lanterns in Natsugiri aren't floating out to sea like in other places, but are made like balloons out of Japanese paper, the air inside warmed by a candle to be released up into the sky. There's a picture of the lanterns all rising like fireflies, the light from the stars and the ground all merging into a single beautiful illumination. It also says it started in the Kamakura period, but the reason for this tradition has not been passed down to the present. No one remembers. I see lanterns rising into the sky, an illusionary column of light. Across hundreds of years, every single year without fail, light sent up off into the sky by the hands of so many people. They all align and merge together, becoming so bright that it's like daylight around me. The very air quivers. Another and then another lantern rises upward. As I watch the lights rising away, the light in front of me fades away. A moment ago, it was like everything melted together. But now it's like water dripping from a waterfall, flowing backward in time, slowly increasing the darkness of the night. 10 more lights, they continue upward, blending into the darkness. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, and the final one. Glittering brightly one final time, shuddering as though afraid to leave my sight. I hear a cat meow. Then again, this one's slightly higher pitched. 2 cats then. It's coming from the bamboo grove next to the temple. And a calm, neutral voice rings out in my mind. Let me show you the beginning of the lantern tradition in this place. You seem to have forgotten about it. The final light in front of me flies off towards the bamboo grove, as though inviting me along behind it. As though enticing me to remember something even more important. So the bamboo grove is like right here, right? Oh, over here first. Or maybe it's this. Oh yeah, this would be a bamboo grove. I hear a man's voice. For this is a memento of my father and the departed princess. We shall place them here and create a temple. Forgive me, both of you, for laying you to rest where in this place so far from our ancestral lands. Please forgive me. We shall build a temple as best we can. We have limited tools, limited workers, but we'll do what we can. We have the time. Some people around him are crying. What is this? From the time the temple was first created? Now it's a small but fine looking temple. It seems like it's been created a long time ago as a memorial to someone. The ball of light turns to the left and heads away along the mountain path. The mountain path at night looks like the darkness has opened its maw for me, instilling the terror that it might be caught forever in the dark depth world. But then I remember the voice from before, telling me to remember something I've forgotten. those words ringing inside my skull, binding me, and it feels like I'm being drawn toward the mountain path, with almost no sensation in my hands or feet. That's right, this is nothing. Nothing compared to having lost everything, struggling through these mountains, that endlessly muddy track, no sensation in our feet, our food all used up, and yet all that nothing again compared to everything we've already lost. It's a man's voice again. Then I see people, dozens of them, men, women, young, old, silently walking through the mountains at night. I look more closely, and they're all wearing dirty, torn kimono, and many of the men have swords at their sides. This isn't a contemporary vision. Maybe it's connected to how the Lanterns event got started. It's still like I'm looking down on them from a slightly floaty, elevated position. They can't see me, don't know I'm there. My body is light, floating like one of those lanterns. I can clearly see the expression on each of their faces. Their bodies are exhausted, with some of them even walking barefoot, perhaps having worn out their sandals. Their feet are bleeding from under their nails, from their legs, but it looks like a while since they've had any time to worry about such injuries or even take a break. Oh! An old lady falls over, her legs collapsing beneath her. She has to be at her physical limit. She raises her arms and tries to grab the sleeves of one of the passing men. The man is young and small, however, and apologizes before looking away and carrying on. The others do the same. No one stops to help her. No one tries to pick her up or carry her. She is left behind by the exhausted group, left alone in the darkness. That means this kind of thing, leaving one of your own behind, isn't the first time for this exhausted group, as they head towards some destination or away from somewhere else. They simply continue to walk, pushed on by deep despair and the animalistic, semi-unconscious instinct for those with the energy and only those to carry on as far as they possibly can. That's what it looks like. Well, damn. Grandmama falls over and they're like, nah, you good. What? Sagan has been killed? Are you sure? Yes. Lord Sagan and his men fought bravely, but their fort was overrun and fell into enemy hands. It must have been hard for him to leave you and the princess behind. Lord Artachi, please compose yourself. I hear those voices from the darkness. The clattering sound of armor too. The light of candles, the presence of multiple men, and I'm seeing a scene from long ago, but much is clear now. Artachi. That name has a nostalgic ring to it. Who was he? The man bites his lip hard, gripping his hands together and glaring down at the ground as though to bore a hole into it. We've been fighting for decades, and at one time we pushed them back, thriving for a while. But then the tide turned against us again, and our foes surged back. Now, so few of us remain. Having the bold Sagan on our side was perhaps the final thing supporting our morale. I know that all too well. Losing him might be the final blow for us. Lord Sagan has been our ally since the time of your father, Artachi, and I also feel such sorrow for his daughter, Lady Ray. A young woman was sitting alone in a room illuminated by a pale blue moon, reading by the light of a candle. In comes the master of this castle, a young man called Artachi. As avid a reader as ever, I see. At that comment, she shifts her eyes from the book and looks at him, her long eyelashes glittering translucently in the moonlight. Yes, just like you, my lord Artachi. Is it strange for a woman like me to read so much? Perhaps. She smiles at Artachi. He turns his eyes aside, as though unable to look directly at her smile. A heavy silence lasts for a few moments as he struggles to breach a difficult subject. The woman continues speaking and perhaps aware of the hesitation. Perhaps not. But I have a strong feeling the conflict will end soon. Once that happens, we need more remaining than barren sadness. I need to plant something beautiful inside myself and nurture it keenly. For when our will to peace finally arrives, when it does, I hope that I will find my opportunity to share with the people the knowledge, the stories I have learned. Whether they're poems that tell of distant lands, the records of this conflict, or tales of your own brilliance, Artachi. After all, we suffer such hardships at the moment, our people and our soldiers both, with scant fun to be had in those times of strife. You are of noble blood. It is unlikely you will be allowed to address the common folk so casually. Whatever not, though, the world is always changing, or maybe we shall be the ones to change it. The princess has a gentle smile on her face, but Artachi's face is harsh. To change the world? Indeed. If I had not been born in such times, I would have loved to live my life in poetry and song. But all I can do today is fight. Silence falls again. A hard and heavy silence, as though the shadows cast by the moonlight through the window can be seen moving across the room. Artachi is the one who breaks it, although he still seems unable to broach his real reason for being here. When you first came to me, it was on a night with a beautiful moon like this. To start with, I didn't even want to meet you. Sagan has been an ally of my father. To hear of his daughter, the daughter of such an important man, and that she was to be married to me. Just the kind of scheme my father would think of. I thought of myself as nothing but a leaf, carried, swirling through the torrent of my father's ambitions to simply be used up by him, until you actually arrived. Until you first came to this place and I saw your beauty and your grace for the first time. He stops talking again. The princess seems to have sensed something in his manner. Lord Artachi, you have come to tell me something, have you not? She asks. Determination finally settles on his face. Your father is gone. I'm told it was a brave and fitting end. I see. And what will you do next? Continue the fight. That is the only choice. Is that really what you want to do? Oh, but no. I shouldn't ask such things. Please, may I be alone for a while? I wish to bathe in the moonlight a little longer. I feel like we're going further and further and further back. Now I see a scene from a different room. Another group of men are gathering, muttering to themselves, while looking all around. Since our lord had met with betrayal from our former allies and fell, leaving young Artachi to take up his seat, it is a fact that the presence of Lord Sagan has proved much support to our men. Things are going to get a lot harder for us now. How is Princess Ray doing? She has sunk into a depression, looking at the moon all night, without once taking to her bed. We have but a few soldiers left behind, all of us, and Lord Artachi. What can we hope to achieve? We must protect Princess Ray. Though we stand on the back foot, her bloodline is proof of our legitimacy. Indeed, but what of Lord Artachi? He might have made a fine lord, if not for the crisis. He still yearns for pen in his poems, and is not much of a warrior. His father and Lord Sagan must have regretted their passing with the future of our land still in so doubt. I understand what you are saying. With our current lord remaining numbers, we can't hope but maintain morale. But if we fold now, our righteousness, our justice will be trampled to nothing. These are the things they are talking about. Other things also flow into me, the worries of the people, fragments of conversations and their concerned expressions. Something speaks to the tension they all hold toward this situation, with seemingly no resolution. In that moment, a mounted soldier arrives at the gate and starts knocking. He looks in terrible shape, like he's barely escaped from the enemy. The soldier passes through the gate, unwraps a preciously cradled piece of cloth and offers Sagan's sword to Artachi and Princess Rey. He exclaims how it is the blade the Lord used to commit his ritual suicide. This soldier was offered by her father to bring the weapon to his daughter, and rode without pause to complete the task. The princess, who's been so stalwart until now, sees the sword, and then breaks down, crying quietly. Without any time for serious grief, the soldier has another important piece of information to impart. Enemy forces are approaching their position from 3 directions. They should come into view at any moment. They try to gather whatever forces they have, but Artachi and a few remaining men are never going to offer effective resistance to this threat. Time passes quickly, uncaring for their plight. Among the fragments I see of this event, one is Artachi going to the princess. The final battle is almost upon us. Being of the bloodline of your mother, we have no idea what the enemy may do if they capture you. Should we face defeat, you need to be prepared to take appropriate action. Lord Artachi, I have one important request. There's a long silence. I feel like I can see the candles in the room slowly burning shorter. I've been thinking of one thing this entire time. I've become convinced it is only your choice. Please, please surrender to the enemy. If you continue this fight, more innocent lives will be lost and nothing more. Please choose to protect the lives of your living vessels and ministers. It seems like a sudden development. I have no way of knowing the effect that those words have on his heart, but however he might feel about the idea, even as such an ardent request from his wife, he can't possibly accept it in his position. This coming from the daughter of Sagan, a brave hero who died with honor. No, you think I'm a coward too, do you? With my father and Sagan gone, you still think I'm unworthy to stand in command of my men? His expression is not one of anger, but more one of sadness, and maybe even disappointment. No, that's not what I'm saying. Please believe me. Do you think my father wished for our destruction? This is difficult to say, but my father had taken to saying something in his final days. That is, anything were to happen to him. Just hearing that prompts Artachi to hurry from the room. He orders the guards outside to lock the door and keep the princess inside until the fighting ends. The next morning, sunlight faintly illuminates the mountains from behind the banks of the ash-gray clouds. The enemy forces spread into the distance, completely surrounding the fortress. Faced with overwhelming odds, the fortress they are trapped inside looks like more than a mud hut. A flash of light through the cloud illuminates the faces of the enemy, and as though taking that as a signal, they unleash a storm of flaming arrows. It almost looks like a flock of lanterns I saw earlier, but this flock is filled with swirling intent of evil. It takes mere moments for the fires to spread and the castle is thrown into chaos. Soldiers rush around with water, but further burning arrows rain down as quickly as the first fires can be extinguished, and the flames only grew higher. The gates and the guard towers are aflame. If the enemy advanced like this, Artachi's forces would be unable to prevent them from reaching the main keep. Amid the shouts of rage, anguish, and despair, something untoward happens. A peal of thunder rolls out, so loud as to split the world. The clouds boil, a darker black and vertical torrent of rain begins to shift down, placing the capital at the foot of the waterfall. Either side can maneuver in the downpour. The ground quickly turns to mud, causing a forced ceasefire. The fires are extinguished too. But no one is celebrating. The issue is far greater than that of the fire arrows and flames now. Once this rain stops, the enemy are going to pour in and trample the fort underfoot. That will bring an end to this long conflict. The rain seems heavy and hard to all underneath it. Then the strangely eldritch sound of a conch shell being blown rings out. From the misty forest in a different direction from the enemy, something shining darkly moves out toward the the castle. Amid the downpour, 4 bearers with scarves covering their heads are carrying a palanquin capable over the rain-drenched ground, quietly walking towards the castle. The guards shout at them to stop, asking them who they are, but the approaching men pay no heed. One of the soldiers dashes out to confirm who these newcomers are. After observing them for a while, sharing a few words, and checking inside the palanquin, the guard returns to report. Lord Itachi, someone claiming to be a monk asks for the audience with you. In the middle of this battle? Some agent of the enemy, most likely. I inspected them all carefully and found no weapons. They repeated only that they serve no warrior and simply hope to bring some measure of aid to those who pray to God. If we allow an audience before the rain ends, the monk said, there might be a way to escape this predicament. Crafty dogs. Just what are they after? Another peal of thunder rolls out. But for one moment, the clouds in one corner of the sky seem to part, and the rain seems to slow. Once the rain ends completely, the enemy will surely attack again. Itachi looks off into the distance. To change the world and to talk of poems with people. My lord? Nothing. You checked for weapons, correct? And things like poisons, too? Yes, a thorough inspection. Very well. Let us see where this leads us. If they make any suspicious movements, cut them down where they stand. Prepare to admit that. The gates open, and the unsettling black palanquin allowed admittance. A man with a black cloth wrapped around his head climbs out. He moves to our Itachi and kneels. Remove your headcloth. I need to see your face. Of course. I apologize for any offense I may have caused. The man proceeds to use both hands to lift the cloth from his face. The visage looks old, but has a strangely lustrous skin. It is also completely hairless, with no eyes or even eyelashes. His expression is so fixed, his mouth might be glued to his face, but his eyes are sparkling. He looks so strange, it sends a quiver through my soul. Like something from another world rather than a god that might save them. Looks more like an agent of death himself has appeared among them. You do seem to have some trouble here. The man gives a dry rasp of a laugh and from deep inside his throat. I'm pleased you're so amused. We are merely humble monks seeking to save as many as we can from this wild and dangerous world. Allow us to give your prayer to this land of corpses. Just what are you planning? I will not allow any tricks. We're planning nothing, we assure you. My brothers and I seek only to save lives. This world is a place of spiritual training, overflowing with pain. To make our way through it and pray for others is how we train. It seems you and all your men are suffering most bitterly here. You hardly need eyes to tell that. Once the rain ends, the final battle will be engaged, and we will surely perish. The monk rasps with another laugh at this proclamation from Itachi. The men around him are disturbed by this, and some reach for their swords, but Itachi stops them. The monk continues, would you like to make a deal with our god? We have the power to offer such a bargain. A deal? We see everything. An evil spirit that would cause destruction to your house has been possessing you for a while now. We can seal this curse away. Think for a moment. You surely have some idea about what I speak of. An old blind minister speaks up. Perhaps in the times of your father, Itachi, and your grandfather before him, we did prosper. We seemingly, in one instance, everything turned against us. Our enemy found all of our favor, and our most powerful warriors fell. I could believe it's the work of evil spirits. Itachi still doesn't seem to quite believe it. You are likely spinning the same tale to our enemies. What do you want? We want nothing. At least, almost nothing. In order to grant your desire, there's one thing we would ask for you. That is all. I knew it. And what do you want? You have precious little life to give. We do not seek treasures. We just ask that you and those who are saved must continue their spiritual training down the generations ahead. Which means what? I speak of when you are reborn again in the future. Really? It is nothing of significance. The true nature of this world is causality and karma. These things will simply appear as differing fluctuations. Be it causality or karma, the very moment we are living is now, is within the same flow. We are those who gently insert their hands into the endless flow of the river, tilting our palms and changing the course ever so slightly, and creating as a result a slight variation on causality via a different present and for future. The volume of water, its purity, its impurities, none of these things are changed. The balance of the world is maintained, and yet the collapse of your house, fall of your people, that can be avoided. Our prayers contain that possibility. If you're willing to feel the burden of karma and accept some measure of understanding of this world. All of those listening have puzzled expressions on their face, unable to make sense of what the monk is telling them. But when he talks about their escape from destruction, I felt the hearts of everyone present skip a beat. And the monk has woven quite a spell of words, as though binding his listeners with some kind of eldritch art. I can't believe this so easily. Why would you do this? What do you want? Can you not feel it about us? We are those born between the world and the next. We intervene ever so slightly in this world, preventing souls from falling into the infinite darkness of causality. If you are unable to believe us, then that will be the end of it. Maybe you would accept it more easily if I told you what we created, this downpour, in order to give us the time to come and talk with you. We still hear the rain, do you not? And how it grows fainter. If we leave this place, the skies will clear at once. The enemy will attack it with the dawn. If that is what you desire, we can arrange that easily enough. Artachi and the ministers all looked around at each other. They still have a feeling rooted deep in their logical hearts that all of this is too sudden and strange a thing to quickly believe. On the other hand, they clearly have no other way to be saved, and the incantation, like words of the monk, have also affected them deeply. Very well. Give your prayers. If nothing changes, your heads will fly. The monk gives a satisfied nod, and the other four immediately begin preparations. They begin to chant what sounds like some kind of spell, a long, unbroken piece of music. They start a fire, form a circle around it, and begin to pray. The ceremony continues through the night. Toward morning, the sky starts to brighten. It is the complete opposite of the day before, with clear skies completely free of clouds. The monks sit around the burnt-out fire, no longer moving. Artachi and the others have been awake all night watching them pray, and now the monks have stopped moving and talking completely. The other men quickly jump to their feet. Hey, have you completed your prayers? Artachi grabs the robe of the monk with a rustling sound. The headcloth and the clothes drop to the ground in an empty pile. What is the meaning of this? They vanished! Where have they gone? Then one of the princess's handmaidens rush in, her face pale. Lord Artachi, Princess Rei, she has suddenly taken ill. Please, you must come at once. He rushes into the princess's chamber. He opens the door to find her lying weakly on the bed, coughing and spluttering. When she notices him nearby, Princess Rei raises both of her arms. It looks like she can't even see, but she has sensed Artachi with his body warmth and breathing. She places both hands around his face and holding his cheeks. Then she speaks, her voice fading fast. Lord Artachi, forgive me. I understand everything now. This is some kind of punishment, of that I am sure. You have been so kind to the core of your soul, and I have continued to betray that kindness. What are you talking about? Explain yourself, Princess Ray. I am Ray, daughter of Sagan. Sagan pretended to be a brave general in service of your father, but in actuality, he served your enemies. What? Not for his own selfish gain, though, Artachi. That I have to believe. He wanted to end this fight as quickly as possible and bring peace to this world. That has to be true. From a man as I can remember, my standing has been drilled into me, explained to me over and over. What is the most important thing I must do? How to act while I am your bride, Lord Itachi. Itachi, unable to say anything, simply listens to the princess talk. Just once, my father told me something most terrible. I'll never forget the look on his face that day. If anything were to happen to him, if he were facing death at the hands of any of the sides, he would consider the situation at that time and send me a memento of his life. If my mother's hairpin arrived, he told me intently, I should join you and live in righteousness at your side. But if the sword arrived, I should immediately use it to cut you down and then open the gates to the enemy. No! Itachi saw the sword carried in by the messenger, and it is now in the corner of the room. I wanted to save you. At the same time, I also wanted this conflict to come to an end as quickly as possible. I'm so glad I've been able to unburden myself like this. I hope that you will not hate me. It's fine. Please, hush now. No, I have one more thing. A signal my father told me about. The princess told me to use 2 smoke signals from the fort to inform the enemy. That would tell them to hold off on the attack for a little while. Itachi orders the ministers to do just that. If that actually does stop the enemy attack, it will prove that her father was colluding with the enemy. Princess Ray's voice gets fainter and harder to hear. Itachi moves his face closer to her mouth. She reaches into her clothing and takes something out, something small. Please take this with you. It's something passed down my mother's line, an item used by the divine priestesses. I'm sure that it will guide you, Lord Itachi. With that, she quietly expires. Itachi gently lays her body down. The sky clears and the morning sun shines brightly down. The enemy do not move at all. However, the only sounds are the birds and the wind. But no, there's another sound. The crackling of the 2 signal fires. One of them is used to cremate the body of Princess Ray. Lord Itachi, we need to go. I'm sorry, I can't go yet. Those who wish to depart may do so. Itachi waits as long as possible to collect the bones of Princess Ray. As the smoke signals die down and the enemy can be seen preparing to attack again, he finally escapes through the rear gate. When Itachi and a few of his closest men slip away, the smoke is almost gone, and the enemy unleash a rain of fire again. The air is dry today. The fort is swallowed by flames in an instant. That isn't all. The fire starts to spread to the forest Itachi is fleeing into. The fire spreads fast, their clothing charring, cinders flying through the air, and the fire gradually closing in. They find one unburnt corner and rush into it, desperately escaping. The enemy are already attacking the main keep, but they will soon realize it is empty, and start after them. Itachi and the others who escaped manage to meet up again. There are only a few dozen of them left. Then they begin their escape from this burning hell. There are a few handsmaiden, elderly people among them too. Any who can keep up are mercilessly left behind. Wow! They are running for more than a week through the mountains. Some of the ministers cling to the idea of regrouping, finding a friendly force they can join, and awaiting a change to surge back into power. But as the food runs out and they find themselves drinking rainwater and chewing leaves just to survive, such bold talk fades away. They just want to avoid the enemy forces and find a safe, quiet place. As they see the ones who walked beside them yesterday slowly fall dead today, stumbling along into a hallucinatory haze until they tumble over a cliff. They switch over a pure survival instinct. simply wanting to find anything, a hut, a hovel, pit in the ground, where they might live a little longer. Wow. Is it this way that we're going? Yes, okay. My voice hurts. When the group can barely walk forward any longer, when their limits have seemingly come, they find a valley with a small river babbling through it, finally bringing them clean water. They follow the river, and the remaining members of Itachi's party, only around 10 of them left, look down at a small bay from a waterfall. They are saved, perhaps. Although none of them can vocalize it in the moment, from deep in the mountain, the mist, the sunlight is raising over the horizon, making the water sparkle. This flat land that looks perfect for growing some rice, and the calm bay is filled with fish that would be easy to catch. They search around carefully, confirming there are no dangerous animals or risks of enemies finding them here. They wash their clothing and bodies in the water, recovering themselves a little, and finding some smiles. They make tools, cut down some trees, and make rough dwellings. Those with blacksmith and carpentry experience surviving the ordeal really saves them. To begin with, they are careful, even with lighting fires, worried about giving away their position, but no pursuit arrives. Itachi orders the people to build a village. They gather herbs, mountain plants, catch fish, find crops they can cultivate and plant fields. The seasons turn, the years pass, and a small settlement is formed. With all the fog in the summertime, they named the place Summer Fog, Natsuguri. When a young couple marry and have their first child, there is much celebration. For many years they held the fear that those who hunted disgraced warriors would arrive. But with the passage of time and no such occurrence, such worries fade away. They don't know for sure how far removed this land is from the territory of their enemy, but it's quiet, rich in nature, and seems very safe. The people's hearts gradually leave the tension of war behind, and just as Princess Rei and Itachi have desired, they learn to enjoy poetry, singing, and stories, and revel in the changings of the seasons. After more than 10 years, Itachi is still single. He has been told that the karma would fall onto those who have been saved. He didn't know what it meant himself after reincarnation or his descendants. But he's still fighting the pain of losing Princess Rei and the sadness at all the betrayal he had suffered. He's fighting them alone. In the summer, a few years later, one of those who fled here to Natsuguri dies of old age. Itachi proposes that they send lanterns up in the sky in memorial of the fallen comrade. The descendants that they left behind might be born into suffering right down at the end of their line. The lanterns, therefore, also contain the desire to ward off evil things, like the smoke signals of the fort, and hope of taking the departed souls to heaven. The number of lanterns grow in number each year, one by one. Eventually, it is 40 years since the refugees settled in Natsuguri. Itachi is old now, and there are more young people living in the village. The children and grandchildren of those who came here first. The people are self-sufficient, not living rich lives, but peaceful ones. Two boys started to fight over one of the village girls. One of them took his grandfather's sword and killed the other boy. Everyone who was left behind was greatly saddened by this happening. Even though things seemed peaceful, it is impossible to completely remove the darkness from people's hearts. They added another lantern to be sent up into the sky. There was another family with a parent and a child who couldn't get along, and the child left Natsuguri. The child didn't come back. No one living there knew what things were like outside the village. They gave up, thinking the child lost. There we go. Yeah. Itachi was still alone. With his crooked back, he climbed slowly up into the mountains. Ah, what a peaceful place. The squabble may continue, but we feel completely separated from the world of conflict out here. I would have been so happy if Princess Ray could have been here with me. Was it a mistake to make that foolish deal? That was a question with no answer, and yet a question that circles inside his head every single day. Could he have persuaded her to run away with him? But there was no escape from his regrets. Were the descendants of these people going to be born here, and then have to suffer in a peaceful place? He wanted the curse to end with his generation. Then, he feels the presence as his back. He turns and sees two women standing there, one wearing white and one wearing black. Who are you? No need to be surprised. We have watched over the priestess from this mountain since ancient times. Itachi wonders if he's seeing things in his old age, or if maybe there's some kind of evil spirit. What do you mean, priestesses? There are a gentle hill in the middle of the valley, correct? The priestess was buried there long ago. We are her protectors. This land has been uninhabited for hundreds of years since that time. You have achieved much in a short span. Well done. You aren't of this world, are you? Then you already see it, don't you? The foolish thing I did as a young man. I've lost so many precious things. I too will soon be gone. If possible, I wish to rise with the light up into heaven. Tell me, both of you. I have lived alone, in remembrance of those I have lost. Will the causality surrounding me end with me? Will the children of this village live happy, blessed lives? That is an impossibility. You are cursed. All of you are cursed. Cursed to the end of each of your lines. This is not limited to only you. It will appear in each of those who are born here. The suffering you have created will rain down on each of them. That is what you wanted. And it is not necessarily a bad thing. Not a bad thing? How can you say that? What do you mean? Because that is already the nature of this world. You cannot be so naive. Indeed, you already know the truth better than most. Impurities may pool in one place, but in others the waters run clear. The entire river does not become polluted and does not become clean. The curse cannot muddy the waters. Sometimes dirty, sometimes clear, simply changing between these two alternate states. But foolish humans are unable to understand this. The two women, one in white, one in black, laugh with the sounds like calling birds. Their voices blend into the forest, fading away, and then the two of them form a spiral in the air and vanish as well. Okay. Oh, alright. As Itachi comes down from the mountain, two cats cross in front of him. One white, one black. Artachi tells the people that they need to build a shrine up on the mountain, a place to wish for the peace of the residents of Natsuguri. That is the final command that he gives his people. Another lantern rises into the air, a big one, released by the people whose lives are now rooted in Natsuguri. With the hopes of carrying Artachi's soul away to the heavens, it is followed by a second large lantern. This was something Artachi asked for on his deathbed, to send one beautiful light into the sky for Princess Rei. Aww. Fragment 6 complete.